so much, Molly. Good evening, everyone. As Molly shared, my name is Delaware Stanislaus, and I am the Chief of Capital Planning for Boston Public Schools. I am really excited to be standing here at Excel High School and in community with all of you this evening as we talk about the closure of the current Excel High School and the future of this building. I look forward to doing a quick presentation for all of you, and then leaving the majority of time for us to answer any of your questions, any of your concerns, and talking through some of our next steps. With that, I am going to kick off a quick presentation this evening. So if we can just hold our questions until the end, that would be really, really helpful. We want to give everyone a chance to ask questions and answer all of your questions. So, kicking it off. Sorry, I'm left-handed. Yeah. Okay. So, on March 20th, the Boston School Committee voted to approve a proposal that we presented on January 20th to close Excel High School. This work is tied to our long-term facilities plan implementation across BPS. For those of you who aren't tracking the calendar in school years, that is not, so the closure of Excel High School, for the end of June 2026. That is not the end of this school year, but the end of next school year. Based on this timeline, the current eligible 11th and 12th graders will graduate from this building. We are committed to making the final year of Excel High School rich and rewarding for all students who are currently here at Excel High School. We look forward to helping the school community celebrate the history, the very important history of the Excel High School and all of its accomplishments. For that reason, the budget of the school will be maintained over the next year. It will be held intact to make sure that students are supported through the closure, and also the school gets to celebrate all of the rich history here at Excel. As a reminder, BPS and the city are committed to reopening this building after Excel High School closes and after renovating the building as a high school within the BPS. Too many of our high schools are physically too small to support a robust secondary school experience. As we are right-sizing our district footprint to match enrollment, part of this work is moving to fewer, on average, larger schools with the capacity to hold upwards of 600 students. This building presents an opportunity for us to accomplish that goal. We've gotten a lot of questions from the community about timeline. My hope is that this visualization helps outline where we are and where we're heading. Spring of 2025, today is in light green on the map. Light blue represents all of the work that must be done to ensure our students have a fulfilling final academic year and transition successfully to their new school communities. This means the district is providing wraparound services for our students and educators. You can see here that the building will not be empty of students until June of 2026. The building will then be decluttered and empty of curriculum materials and any excess stuff in the building. While some of the building's scope of work has already begun, it will not be until the building is fully empty that any construction or renovations will begin in the building. Right now, the capital planning team is working in collaboration with the city's capital budget team and also our facilities team on a capital budget request and also a scope of work for this building. Through our scoping, we will have a clearer sense of a timeline for when the building will reopen as one of our incredible high schools within the BPS. This, however, will not be a short process, but it will be a very intentional process. As you can see, we are looking out a few years for a future high school opening. We commit to working with all city partners to keep this community engaged and informed every step of this process. We look forward to future conversations with this community to collaborate on a vision for a relationship between the school and this community. To put this in historical context, here we have timelines of 4 recent new building renovation projects. These timelines represent the design and construction phase process for construction projects within the BPS. As you can see, it takes many years to do these projects. I'm pretty sure all of you here know this, but this building is rich with history. Decades of student achievement, line display boxes, and monuments that honor the service of South Boston veterans remind us of the heroic efforts of our young people. These artifacts create a learning environment grounded in history, service, and legacy. For that reason, we are committed to maintaining and preserving all artifacts in the building throughout next year, the scoping process, construction process, and eventual reopening of this building. For all our projects, we consistently work with various BPS and city departments to preserve artifacts, artwork, and records. We will continue to do so in this process. If for whatever reason relocation of artifacts becomes necessary, we will work with all relevant city and BPS departments as well as community to do so. When buildings remain in BPS portfolio, we continue to take care of them as ours. After Excel High School closes, BPS will continue to support snow removal, pest management, and waste management services in the building, in and around the building. We will communicate about any changes to parking in the future, which we know is a community asset. School closures are difficult and can be emotional for communities. We commit to keeping the South Boston community informed about next steps in the building process and artifacts. But we ask for your help by not making requests of the staff or administrators of Excel as they're going through the closing process. We want to ensure that within the building, the administrators within the building can continue to focus on teaching and learning and closing out the school. If you do have questions or concerns, you can always reach out to our department, the Capital Planning Department, at capitalplanning@bostonpublicschools.org. Any member of our team will get back to you promptly. With that, I'll turn it back to Molly to open up our question and answer.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Thank you all for sitting through a brief presentation. We're going to open it up to Q&A in just a minute. I just wanted to lay some sort of respect of the space and each other. We ask that you keep your questions or comments to around 1 minute, and that you please allow all voices to be heard before you ask a follow-up question or a second question. We want to hear from as many folks as possible. We've got a pretty packed room tonight. I also see lots of folks taking pictures of the slides. I'm happy to email the slides out after the event too, so don't feel like you have to rush and do it. We have all your emails from sign-in, so we will make sure that you get these slides as well. If we don't have answers today, I'm going to be posting over there what's called a parking lot, where I'm going to write questions we don't have the answers for today so that we can continue to follow up with what the community is asking for. With that, I would like to turn it to Charlie from Councillor Flynn's office, who wanted to say a few words. Don't feel like you have to come all the way up here, but
Can everybody hear me? Thank you, Molly, the BPS team. Thank you, Capital Planning team. Thank you, Anna White, BPS, Lydia Pulaski with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I see Senator Collins' office here, Rep. Bill's office, Council Santan's office. I want to thank everybody for coming on a cold night here, unusually cold night in April. So I know Council Flynn wanted to be here tonight. We had several events in the district. One being, I know he's over there. Sorry, I know Council Flynn wanted to be here tonight. Can everybody hear me now?
yes, better.
Okay, sorry about that. I know Council Flynn wanted to be here tonight. He had several events. One being, he's over in the South End and Union Park Neighborhood Association tonight. He asked me to read a short statement. On January 7th, Council Flynn put out a statement that the announcement regarding the closure of Excel High School, formerly South Boston High School, was a huge loss to the school community. At that time, Council Flynn noted that this is a school with a diverse population. He noted how critical it was to ensure that parents, school staff, students, teachers receive clear communication, support, and guidance about the next steps as we move forward. Council Flynn takes great pride in the robust Junior Reserve Officers Training Program at Excel High. Council Flynn has advocated to ensure that this program does not get cut, and that the students who are part of this program can continue to complete their training. South Boston High School has produced veterans who served in both World Wars. There's a World War I memorial on site, as well as other veterans-related memorabilia in the building. It is critical that we continue to preserve our memorials and monuments dedicated to the remarkable service and sacrifice of our veterans and military families, as well as any other memorabilia related to the history of South Boston and its people. I see my friend Kevin Conrad has been heavily involved in these issues in the veterans community. That is why Council Flynn subsequently called for and held a public hearing at the City Council with Councilor at Large Aaron Murphy last month on March 4th regarding the issue of preservation of historical artifacts that we were just talking about, and BPS with closures or mergers. He also attended a virtual BPS-sponsored community meeting with the school community last month. With the pending closure of Excel High School, we will lose the last remaining high school in South Boston. This is a loss and an emotional time for many families and graduates for both South Boston High School and Excel High School, as well as the community at large. Council Flynn said that it was imperative for Boston Public Schools in the city to provide clear information to the school community on their plan moving forward, while also exercising transparency with the people of South Boston and neighbors regarding the future of the building. Since that time, BPS Superintendent Skipper and the team have let Council Flynn and our office know privately, as well as the public, that the plan is for the site to be an anchor school in the city in the years ahead. I'm glad we now have an opportunity for our neighbors to weigh in and make their voices heard tonight, and to learn more information on the city's timelines for the building and remain in the school. So again, I want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here tonight and lending your voice to the process. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you, Councilor Flynn, as well. So with that, I will open it up to Q&A. I think we're going to have to use, as Principal Gordon was saying earlier, our teacher voices in this big room. So feel free to just raise hands. All right, in the back, right there.
So I know the timeline can vary with coordination, but has the design phase started yet?
The design phase have not started yet. Our teams has been walking the building as early as this morning at 8 o'clock. Our team, along with the Public Facilities Department at the city, we have walked the building to pull together a scope of work because we want to make sure, as we're doing the implementation of the long-term facilities plan, we've talked about the high-quality student experience, ensuring that students have access to spaces like CPE spaces, etc. And we know that there needs to be some upgrade in the building. So first, like the process we'll go through, we'll get a scope of work, we'll work with the public facilities department and our operations team on getting like designers on board, etc. But first we need to complete the scope of work process and the capital budget process to get there. And we are in the process of doing that as we speak.
Thank you. And I just want to say CTE spaces are career and technical education spaces in case folks don't have the lingo. Yes.
Yes, can you tell us how many children attend this Excel right now?
311 students.
Okay, so you want 600 people to come here. We have 7 buses lined up on G Street every day of the week. So that means you're going to double the amount. Who's paying for all the buses and why? I don't get it. And how do you expect even the MTA or whoever to get these children in here? How is that going to work? 600, and of your 300, I live right down the street. I think if you have 200 on a good day, you're doing good.
Thank you for that question. As I shared in the presentation, we're looking for Excel, this building to be an anchor high school, which means that we're looking for a school that's like highly chosen across the district to be an anchor high school here. That means that enrollment in this building, we're expecting to expand. With that being said, most of our high school students does utilize the MBTA. However, our students with special needs students that require door-to-door services at the high school level does use school buses. We want to make sure that all of our students in the city of Boston get access to high quality education in communities that they're living in across the city. South Boston is one of them. Our transportation team, along with like our contractor, does everything that they can to make sure that they're working with communities. A good example is the Edwards building that just opened in Charlestown for our students with deaf and hard of hearing. We worked with that community as we were implementing sort of like the bus, like the AM and PM bus dismissal with that community. I understand that I understand that like with additional buses, it may cause traffic within the community, but our team wants to work in collaboration with the community because we want to ensure that students can learn in schools like within the community that they live in. Like when looking at the South Boston community, there's over 1,500 school-age students. We want to make sure that these students have access to high quality and even our students with disabilities.
There are more than that. That's just the BPS.
Yeah, BPS students, 1,500 BPS students, sorry. Yeah, but there's more.
I'm going to go with this man in the red and then to you. You first, yeah.
All right, you keep referring to this Excel High School, so it's no longer South Boston High School?
The current high school that's in this building, the South Boston High School building, is Excel High School.
All right, so the athletic program is not South Boston?
No, the current high school is Excel, so it's Excel.
Wait a second. They still have like athletic programs that go into South Boston, right?
No. Currently, no. There's not a South Boston High School. It's
So
Excel
there's
High
really no South Boston High School anymore?
School. No, it's currently Excel High School.
All right.
Can we just circle back? Yeah.
You mentioned a couple times that you would like this to be a program that draws from across or a school that draws from across the city. How are you planning to support that goal, both through innovation and through any sort of academic development or additional programmatic offerings like JQUS has their state-of-the-art, like rooming centers and the IB program? Is there going to be something analogous here?
That's actually a great question. Thank you for that question. As we're going through the process of school selection, and as I shared, the CTE program, that is one way of like differentiating like what like this anchor high school how it would differentiate from other BPS high schools. So for example, it can be that this building holds space for like biotech, electrical, like there's a number of different CTE programs. So while we're going through the high school like selection process, we're looking for a highly chosen high school, even with like a wait list across the city. One of the things that we're looking at through the implementation of the long-term facilities plan, schools that are like highly chosen have waitlists, but their current buildings does not have the capacity, right, to accept additional students, and they have like long waitlists, and is in a space where they can expand. Also looking at like the CPE programs, that's like JQS, like they have like robotics, they have the IB program over at JQS, which differentiates them. We have EMK for health careers. We have Madison Park that has, that's like our anchor high school in the district. For CPE, sorry. And so it will be, the CPE programs will differentiate from other high schools across the district.
And is there like a process thing that you're going through that there will be community feedback on for choosing what like the CTE focus would be here?
So unfortunately, we won't be like building like a new high school program, so it would be coming with the current high school. So the chosen high school will be coming in with their current CPE programs.
Oh, but you don't know which high school?
We don't know which high school at the moment, no.
Saw a hand in the vest right here.
My question's regarding the World War I memorials in this building.
Yes.
The one right outside here. And there's another one downstairs in the first floor off the lobby. What are your plans to keep them, to safeguard them before, during, and after construction?
That's a great question. Sorry. The question that was just asked is that the World War I memorial that's in this building and outside of this building, how do we plan to take care of the memorial? So usually during construction, like when there's like any type of like memorabilia and artifacts within buildings in BPS, our team works in collaboration with the city to ensure all of those memorabilia and artifacts are preserved before, during construction, while buildings is under construction, to make sure that they're not damaged, etc. So our plan right now is to work in collaboration with the city to ensure that all of the artifacts are preserved, and
Do you plan to remove them?
There's no current plans to remove them.
So they're gonna be left in place during work, while work is ongoing in the building?
So that will go, so we're not sure if they're gonna be left in place at the moment. We don't know the scope of work. If the scope of work identified any type of removal, we would need to work in collaboration with the city department. And that is something that we would also share with the community, depending on like what the scope of work of the build, like what the scope of work is gonna happen in the building.
All right, thank you.
Right. Sorry, the person in the black.
Oh,
She had her
headband?
hand around? Yes.
There's about 1,800 Boston Public School students that attend elementary schools in South Boston. That does not count South Boston Catholic Academy or the charter schools. Will they get any preference as a feeder school into this high school?
Students will not get preference. BPS operates on a choice system, so families have choice. There won't be like any preference, but there's choice. So BPS operates on a choice, the number of seats available at the time, at any given time, that families would rank the school.
No, I understand. There's supposed to be something like an BPS. So there's supposed to be a walking 1 mile radius that you get that school under it. If there isn't another one within so many miles.
So the process, so it is a home-based process. It is based on the schools that you ran, and it's based on the number of seats available. Technically, you don't get like preference, right? If there's like seats available within the neighborhood that you rank, and the choice system, if you rank schools close to home, there's seats available at the school close to home, right? The students are assigned. It's not assigned on like because you live in this neighborhood. Also it like also depends on like programming. So for example, if they're depending on the different type of like special education program that the school has within the building, right? There may be students like within the community or coming from different community. The other thing is like on the high school level, right? It's citywide, right? So where you see like where you would see in like elementary schools, that students like in walking distance, that or families like ranking elementary schools like within community, because elementary schools are home-based, right? There's like the I would say the assignment pool is a bit smaller because it's community-based, right? It's home-based, sorry, not community-based, but home-based, right? But high schools are citywide, right? So they're assigning students from across the city of Boston to high schools.
And they're choosing. I think it's
Yeah.
worth naming that our hope would be that students and families would choose the high school here. That's the goal.
Yeah.
Blue sweater and then gray sweater.
How much is this gonna cost? I know you don't have a scope of work proposal, but do you have money set aside, so it's already, the money's there waiting, and how much are you estimating this to be? And who's gonna give us a written guarantee that the school will reopen, per se?
So in terms of cost, we've started the capital budget process, working with the city's capital budget team. The other thing is that we won't know the cost until we know the scope of work. The programming that's coming into the building drives the scope of work, like what would need to happen, right? Like what CTE program is coming into the building will let us know like what spaces we need to build, right? There's also like guidelines from DESE that drives like the number of like square footage, the ceiling height, etc. So we would need to understand some of those things to understand like what we would need to invest in the building for a high school that's moving in here.
The written guarantee is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. The superintendent said it. The mayor has said it.
It's in
on our
all of the
website.
presentations on the website.
Yeah. And they're great.
Following up on what she said about if it is a signed deal, I would personally love to see that actually signed. I want to see that physically in front of me. Also, this high school was built in 1901. Definitely one of the oldest high schools in the city. It looks exactly the same it did 50 years ago when I walked out of here. I don't know why it's been neglected so long. It seems like that's what happens to our neighborhood, though. When the work is going to be done, can there be a guarantee that it's going to be done correctly and it's going to be done properly? And the reason why I say that is I have to look at the L Street bathrooms and the disaster that has been. And we were sure that that was going to be done the right way, and now there's issues with that. If our taxpayers' money is being spent to renovate the school, which should have been done a long time ago, we want to make sure that it's done correctly, properly, and that there's not going to be any issues with the contractors that we're going to hire to do the work. We need that kind of assurance. Also, South Boston High School should be South Boston High School. That's what the name says out front. It should be South Boston.
What does that mean?
Keep it South Boston High. That's all we have. I mean, like, that's all we can left with. So we would really like it if this is Southie High. Keep the name South Boston High. We don't need Excel, we don't need some other school. If you're going to be pulling programs in from another school, that's great. But the name of the school is South Boston High, okay? That's what it was named back in 1901. Please at least give us that.
Thank you for the history. I also just want to respect and honor our current school community that's in this building, Excel High School. I understand like the history, and however, I do want to respect our current high school and representative from our current high school that's in the building tonight. As we I know a couple of years ago, the school that was in the building changed from South Boston High School to Excel High School. I know that like this is like has been rough for the community. However, I also do want to respect the current high school that's in the building.
But three different names.
Has to be kept there.
Three different names.
Yes. Yes.
You want to say
Acknowledging that as well. And the other two, it was split as a 3-campus school. The other 2 schools is no longer here, but the last standing school that's in the building is Excel High School. The other thing, just like answering on the contractors, in my experience and the other schools that have been renovated and have been built within the BPS, our operations department, along with like the city's public facilities department, has been doing a great job on our buildings, has been procuring great contractors for our school buildings. I think as of this past summer, last summer, the JQS building is a beautiful representation of that. I do think we have a number of buildings that's like coming online this summer. Again, 3 of them, and I think that they're all beautiful representation of the work that those contractors have done, and we are going to continue that process through the public procurement process.
In the green right here, and then over to you, sir.
I'd just like to follow up on the school name. My name is Patricia Reed. My father was headmaster here for 10 years. And if the library still exists, the library was dedicated. And when he was here, this high school was full, and some people may remember they even had to have an annex that Charlie Ray took care of down at L Street. And it was all, even though it was in 2 buildings, it was still South Boston High School. My understanding was the only reason it was made into 3 separate schools was each separate school had a different focus on it, which I don't understand why, just because it had a different focus, except for the fact that each had a separate headmaster. Because when this was South Boston High School, this school did have us programs other than just academic programs. I know they had an auto body school, and they had one other one, I think, where they could specialize.
And shop. Some of the
And I mean, that was true of all the high schools in the area, because Jamaica Plain used to have an agricultural high school. So there is no reason, just because this is going to have a different focus, the name can't remain South Boston High School, which I think all the graduates of this school, I am not one, but my sister was, because she was here when my father was headmaster, that they would appreciate keeping the school name, regardless of what the focus of the school is. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is that when you're defining the scope of work, are you taking into account the architectural integrity of a historic building?
Yes, we must, and that is part of the work.
So does that mean that like the window molding can be retained?
Yes, yes.
Great.
Yep.
Would you anticipate that the construction will be over and the school will
At the moment, we're not sure when construction will start. We need to get through the scope of work process first with our capital budget team, and we need to work with our team on what school will be relocating into this building before we put a mark on like the timeline for construction. Like, it's an entire process. We need to build in like the design timeline. We need to build in like the public procurement timeline into the timeline, and then we'll know like when construction would start. That's something that we will keep the community updated about as we're building out those timelines.
Just reiterating that it will still be Excel High School until, just reiterating that Excel will still have the next academic year to complete, and so a lot of this work will not happen until the building's empty. And the white?
What grades are you opening to? Like, will you fill the entire school, or are you doing it grade by grade? I'm asking for my kindergartner sitting here.
Right now, as we're having this conversation, like we're thinking about the work that we're doing right now is for Magnet High School to move into the building, which means that like we're thinking so the majority of our high schools.
You'll open a school and then another school population will come to this.
Yes. Another school will relocate to this building.
So how do you fit in this head here? How do I get my kids in this school?
So you would go through the BPS registration process.
Even though we're waiting for this is a great process, do your due diligence. But then when the school opens, there will be limited spots.
South Boston.
That's true. Or do we try to get them into the school that you're moving so I know my kid can go to school up the street?
So the plan for our school to relocate and grow, right, within this community. So one of our Magnet high schools that parents are choosing across the city of Boston. The goal is for that school, some of our schools, parents are choosing, it's top of their list. However, there's not enough seats available for some of these schools. The goal would be for that school to move and grow within this community. So,
You'll know before it opens. Like, we're part of the process.
What is the school? Do you know the school?
No.
we currently do not know the school.
That's it.
No.
We actually do not know what the school is.
You all already asked questions. No, she hasn't asked.
Okay, go ahead.
To that point, has there been any appetite to expand an experimental charter or to expand testing schools given the same competition for BLS, BLA, OB? Have we looked at sort of the quality or that sort of expanding those options for students here in South Boston who otherwise have to travel a very long distance in order to access those schools?
Just like two things, on BLA and BLS, like there's no, currently in the district, there's no conversation about opening or expanding our exam schools into like this building or any other building across the district. In terms of like charters, like working within BPS, like we're looking at all of our current BPS high schools and not working with any charters to move into this building.
So do you have a process for picking out which high school it's going to be? Or like, does that run concurrently with the next school year so that you're kind of ahead of the game to whenever the next school year concludes and you're moving on to scoping out the project to accommodate that school?
So we're currently working internally with the superintendent and team on a process for which school would move into the building.
Chair, will the school configuration go 7 through 12 or is it strictly high school? Because the most successful schools in the city currently are 7 through 12.
That's a good question. So some of our high schools are 7 through 12, some of our high schools are 9 through 12. We're looking at all of our high schools across the board, so we're looking at our 9 through 12 schools and some of our 7 through 12 schools.
I should have done my homework, but is this building landmarked historically?
Jake says no.
Hi everyone, I'm Jake from Facilities. No BPS building is registered as a historic landmark within the city of Boston.
He said no.
Well, with what entity?
National Historic Registry.
Oh, perfect, great. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Wait, this is a historically protected area. I thought all of Thomas Park was protected.
Yeah, that was my understanding. It's a historically protected area.
So this one BPS building.
This building.
What will happen to the current staff of the South High School during the transition?
That's a good question. What would happen with current staff at Excel High School during the transition? transition. Our human resources team have already started working with the teachers and all of the staff here at Excel High School. For staff that would like to transition within the BPS, our team would work with them. Our permanent teachers will be reassigned. If they want to stay within the BPS, will interview and be reassigned to other BPS schools. Our teachers that are not permanent, our team is working with them on resume writing, mock interview processes, and on interview processes for open positions like across the BPS. And that same process is being done with all of our other staff that are not like teachers and sort of like are not our managerial staff, for example, are going through the same interview process, mock interview process, resume writing, conversations across other schools that have openings across the district.
And is the same true for the school that will come to this space? Would the school that comes to this space maintain its current staff?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
I just wanted to do a quick time check. We're at 6:50, so for folks, if you need to head out, I put up our email address. You can email us at any point with any additional questions if we don't get to them tonight. But with that, I will turn it over to this woman in the black vest and then this woman in the green vest.
Great. I just have a question and I have a statement. I want to know what is your anticipated increase in numbers for students to attend when you're done with the demolition, the changes? What is your expectancy of high school children in the school?
The current capacity of this building is about 600.
That's not right. That's not right.
It's definitely held like 1,200.
It was well into the thousands.
I think when
Yeah, so I just to explain the difference and the reason why we shared 600 instead of as a product of BPS High School a couple years ago. I went to a high school that held like over 700 students, and right now the capacity is much smaller. Just to help folks understand why those numbers are smaller. As we look at BPS enrollment, we've seen a significant decline in enrollment in our general education population, and we've seen a 15% increase in our students with disabilities. The class size numbers for our students with disabilities is a lot smaller than our general education classroom. So as we're seeing the student population change across the district, right, one of the things that we have to do is make sure that the buildings that we're serving students in is set up to serve our student population currently in the BPS.
The only other thing I would add to that, because it's a great point, that I think at its peak there was something like 1,100 or 1,200 students.
North of that.
More than that?
North, yeah.
Yeah, and I think since then, we have just updated some of our education specifications to make sure that we're just that our students' needs are being met in the way Del just talked about, but really for all students to ensure that we're meeting the right class sizes per our VTU contract, to ensure that students have access to things like science labs, because in some of those older calculations, some of those extra rooms to be able to offer a full array of programming to students weren't taken into account, which is maybe why it contributed to a little bit of a crowded feeling sometimes as well. So that's part of why the capacity numbers have changed a bit.
If it's a new program, is there ability to still bring in like an IB or like an academic? Could you do both, or does it have to just be one or the other? Is there appetite?
It depends on what school is moving into this. It depends.
And has there been anything shared about what is the process? So I feel like there's been a couple questions kind of get at that, but I still am not. How are you choosing?
So the superintendent is looking at all of our current high schools, also looking at our selection process and also our high schools with the wait list. The superintendent is currently looking at all of the schools, all of the programs programs that they're offering across all of these schools, and she will come back to us with some sort of like recommendation in collaboration with the mayor's office on what schools is highly chosen. Also looking at the programs the schools, these schools are offering across like their operation, the students, the number of students that are on the wait list, etc.
I'm sorry, you had one more statement before I move.
Thank you very much. I hope the next time, if there's a meeting, that you come in with the equipment, that I can properly hear the questions that are being asked. So I think that going forward, you need to come in better prepared so that we can hear you and discuss. You have to repeat the questions that we're not hearing. We're losing time. But back to what I was asking for, I think I speak on behalf of most of the people here. We would love to see the school, once the Excel Academies have graduated, that the name be returned to South Boston High School. And that's just what I wanted to say as my final statement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to just get some clarity on what Kevin had said about the World War I memorials. You have to have an answer to that. It can't be we're working with the city. Define what that means. Those memorials, so that you know, are precious to this community. And always will be. So they have to be respected. This community has to be respected for it. And we need a plan. We need to know what exactly you're doing.
And we will share that.
I'm sorry, wait a second. I don't know if Commissioner Santiago is here or not, but you will need to work with him. You will need to work also with our elected officials, including our city councilor, who is also a veteran.
Correct.
All right? So it's very, very important that you get that and you hear that, okay?
That is the process, and we will come back to the community. So as we look at the scope of work and what needs to happen in and outside of the building, we will come back to the community. So a part of the work that we do across all of our projects is not just have meetings with the school community, but we do have public meetings with the impacted community to share this information. So as we're developing the scope of work, etc., we'll share this information back out with the community. Like we will work with the councilor's office. We will work across city departments to make sure that the World War I memorials are preserved, and just like even like the building, right, and share like the scope of work, like what we're planning for in and outside of the building with the community. So this work is not done in isolation. I think represent like what some representation of that is like with the Charlestown community. We had monthly meetings in the beginning with that community. We sent out newsletters. Sharing updates of all of the construction work. We knocked doors and shared information with our butters in the area through the process, and that's something that we are committed to doing within this community as well.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, but as your assistant said, or we need to move along because she's looking at her watch, okay? So with that being said, when you talk about scope of work outside of the building, we need to know what that means too, because we also have no man's land, which is a beautiful, beautiful artistic space that Michael Dowling and his team created, and he works with kids. And then we also have all of those millions and millions of dollars going into the Heights. So it's not just, so this building is not in its own silo. It needs to be encompassed in what's around it, and we need information on that. Also scope, look in this room. So most of the time what happens inside a building is not an overly concern to the community, but if you look at the work here, you need to preserve some of this, because this is also our community. And my final sentence on our community is in fact South Boston High School alone.
Thank you.
I think this will have to be our last question, but again, happy to follow up via email. All right. I got it. Okay, last two questions. You both asked one before, so to you first and then to you, and then we'll be done.
So when you move, and I don't understand why you're doing it, but I'm not even going to try to figure that out right now because I'll get a headache. But when you move another school into here, the students that are in that school are going to come here, correct? So children that are residents in South Boston won't even get a chance to come to the high school.
No, the school that's moving in would be a school that's moving to expand, so there will be seats available for students that live in the South.
But why can't kids have preference in their community first? I don't understand this method that you use of assignment, and why kids can't have preference in their community first. If they live in a community, they should have preference in that neighborhood first, because it only helps to build a strong and better community as well as socialization. But why can't these kids have preference in their own neighborhoods first? And then after all their seats are taken, then outside the neighborhoods. And that goes for any neighborhood in the city. And once again, this needs to stay South Boston High, because we have nothing left. It's been all taken away from us. So once Excel leaves, the name outside says South Boston High. We want this to be our high school in our neighborhood and to stay South Boston High.
The BPS assignment process for all of its high school, it's a citywide process, it's a BPS policy. The assignment process is currently BPS policy. Parents have choice. We don't artificially dictate the choice system. If parents in the community select the school, there are seats available, students will be assigned.
Last question.
Do you know what the anticipated enrollment will be for next year? Because as it is now, if there's 300 kids here, I live right close to the school, and I don't see 300 kids going to school, but I do see 10 school buses every morning with one kid getting off. So, I mean, what's the anticipated numbers for next year? Is it just a waste of money? Is everyone going to transfer? Is it just the seniors will be here?
Some of the students that are currently here that are in the 9th and 10th grade, they have the option of transferring. If they would like to transfer, our team is actually currently helping them through that process if they're interested. We don't know what the current enrollment is going to look like here. As I shared, high school students across BPS have access to TPAS, so the majority of students use the MBTA to get to school.
No, I understand that, but I just feel like there are buses out front.
Yep, and there's a small number of our special education students that pulls from different neighborhoods across the city that take school buses.
The big school buses.
Yes, and the thing is that, and just as a transportation alumni, I was the executive director of transportation at one point. Buses run out of time before they run out of space. Students that are in our special education programs are pulling from across the city of Boston. That's why you would see buses that are showing up with like one student on board, because our special education students is pulling across the city. And again, our buses run out of time before they run out of space.
I wanted to thank you all just before we go for being here. I know that this is a building with a lot of legacy and a lot of history for folks, and I think we're excited about potential opportunities for it as well moving into the future. Our hope is that you'll stay engaged in this process. We want to continue these conversations, acknowledging that there will still be active teaching and learning in the building for the next year and a half, but at any point feel free to email capital planning at Boston Public Schools. And I think with that, we'll wrap. And I did hear, one last thing I want to say, we heard a lot about the selection process and that people want to know more about that. So that's something we can follow up with future meetings. And as long as you guys registered and we have your email addresses, we will continue to follow up with you. So thank you all again. I know that these conversations can be hard, so we appreciate you taking the time.